I'm home. Sorry I'm late. Last night, my husband and mother, who did not come home, returned in the evening. Despite our father, who is battling illness, being home, they nonchalantly left the house to have fun. There was no sign of remorse in their attitude. I stood imposingly at the entrance, preventing them from entering the house as if it was natural. It's not I'm home. Explain this to me. In front of my husband, I thrust out a photo sent by a friend. It captured my husband entering a hotel with a woman, evidence of his infidelity. The woman next to my husband in the photo was my mother. My husband, momentarily surprised, soon burst out laughing and exchanged glances with my mother. Oh, you caught us. That was quicker than expected. I thought Camila would be more oblivious. As they chuckled together, I was dumbfounded. Since we started living with my parents, I had noticed my husband and mother growing closer, but who could have imagined it would come to this? So you're admitting to the affair? I can't believe it. It's not an affair. It's serious. My husband blatantly put his arm around my mother's shoulder, smirking at me. I felt nauseated by his repulsive behavior. So, I'm more attractive than you. And Bob suits me better. I'm closer to his age after all. My mother laughed triumphantly, no longer the mother I knew. Just like my husband, I felt sick seeing her as a woman. Betrayed by the two people I trusted the most, I couldn't stand to breathe the same air as them for another second. Get out. What? I don't want to see your face anymore. We're getting a divorce. Take that woman and leave now. Okay. Divorce. Totally fine. That was the plan if you found out. My hatred was far greater than my sadness. Grinding my teeth, I glared at them as my mother, unfazed, said something absurd. I don't mind separating, but I have no intention of divorcing your father. You and Bob can discuss the divorce. What? You can't just decide that. You and Dad are obviously getting divorced too. What are you talking about? He will be gone soon anyway, and after spending so much time together, I'm not giving up on the inheritance. Right. There should be a hefty pension too. We'd lose out on the inheritance if we divorced. I could only sigh at their selfish reasoning. I wanted to get them out of here as soon as possible. Then, I heard my father's loud voice from behind. Get out of here right now. Anna, it's fine if we're separated. I loved you, but I can't forgive someone who hurts my daughter. Bob, be prepared. Even in the face of my father's anger, my mother just smirked. Fine, fine. Then, let's meet again at the funeral. Until then, I won't show my face, so there's nothing you can do. Enjoy your short remaining time with your precious daughter. They left, leaving only those vile words behind. It's okay. I won't let them have their way. Leave it to me. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't move, but my father gently patted my back. However, our peaceful time together was short-lived, as my father's condition suddenly worsened and he passed away. When my mother and husband, grinning, came to claim the inheritance, my father had prepared something for them. The funeral began. Our revenge, mine and my father's, to bring them down to hell, was about to start. I am Camila, 26 years old. Divorced, living with my father at our family home. My father has terminal cancer and is receiving home care, but on good days, we drink tea and watch movies together. Living alone with him, I find peace and happiness in our quiet days. 3 months ago, on that day, my father and I experienced the lowest, worst, and most despairing moments of our lives. Never could I have imagined that moving in with my parents with my husband would lead our family to fall apart like this. Back then, it was unimaginable. I met my now ex-husband, Bob, at the founding anniversary party of my father's company. It was when I was 22, about to graduate from college. I ended up attending in place of my mother, who suddenly couldn't because of back pain. Director, have you received your drink glass? As I entered the hotel venue, a man, one of my father's subordinates, approached me. That man was Bob, who would later become my husband. Not yet. I just arrived. Camila, this is Bob, the best one of our sales department. Bob came over with 2 glasses of wine, laughing, please. Nice to meet you. Director has always been very kind to me. I'm Camila, his daughter. He's always talking about how much he relies on you. When I first met him, Bob struck me as a fresh-faced, good-looking young man in a dark blue business suit. After the president's speech and a toast, it was free time. I followed my dad to greet everyone, then sat down at an empty table to have some snacks. My dad was having a good time with his close colleagues. Enjoying yourself? Can I get you some dessert? No, thanks. I'll get it myself. Bob came over to keep me company, noticing I was sitting alone. How old are you? You look very young. You must mean you're pretty skilled. I'm actually about to turn 33. Been with the company for 10 years. Bob laughed shyly, scratching his head. True, he had a mature air, but there was an innocence and freshness that made him seem in his 20s. Really? You don't look 11 years older than me. 11 years? So you're a student? Yes. About to graduate and become a preschool teacher. It's been my dream job, but now that it's happening, I'm super nervous. Bob listened to my worries about becoming a working adult and gave me some advice. We hit it off and exchanged contact information, occasionally going out for meals and talking. For me back then, Bob was a mentor, an experienced working adult. So, when he said after one of our dinners, I fell for you at first sight. Would you go out with me? I was truly surprised. Despite the age difference, I trusted and liked him, so I had no reason to say no. Even after I graduated and started working as a preschool teacher, Bob always supported me kindly. After 2 years of dating, we decided to get married. When Bob first came to our house to meet my parents, he was surprised to see my mom, Anna. Maybe that's when the seeds of discord were sown. Your mother? Yes, Camila's mom, Anna. People often mistake us for sisters because we look alike, height and figure-wise. Though I guess it's kind of embarrassing for me. It's no wonder Bob was surprised. Anna was 9 years younger than my dad, 45 at the time. She had me at 21 and still kept her figure, often looking much younger than she was. People said we looked alike, but Anna was classically beautiful, while I took after my dad with a slightly raccoon-like face. No, you're really beautiful. Bob was speechless, gazing at Anna, until my dad came to his rescue. Come on, he's getting flustered. Let's prepare some coffee. The greeting went smoothly, and Bob quickly got along with my parents. But I would later learn that Bob's reaction wasn't just embarrassment. Our wedding was grand, with many of Dad's colleagues attending because Bob was one of them. Bob's parents came from afar, making it a truly happy ceremony. After the wedding, Bob remained kind and always cared for my parents, who lived nearby. How about we take your parents on a spa trip? Your mom's back is weak, right? Thanks. You don't have to be so considerate just because Dad was your boss. What are you saying? I love you, so I want to take care of your parents too. Actually, I really love them both. Even when I wasn't there, the 3 of them would chat for ages, really getting along well. That's why I believed our happy married life would continue forever. About a year after our marriage, I got a call from my mom. It was such a shocking revelation that I decided to discuss it with my husband that very day. Hey, I need to talk to you about something. I got a call from my mom today. Something wrong? Yeah. It's about Dad. It turns out the illness we thought he had beaten has come back. He's been having regular checkups, but... I was so shaken while explaining this to my husband that my voice trembled. Does that mean? Yeah. It seems to have progressed quite a bit, and he might need care going forward. He's planning to retire early from his job to focus on his treatment. My husband remembered my father taking time off from work a few years ago for cancer surgery. The treatment now wasn't about surgery, it was more about palliative care through regular hospital visits. I won't start right away, but when Dad's strength starts to wane, would it be okay if I stopped by their place after work before coming home? Mom's always had a bad back, so I want to lighten her load. Why don't we just move in with your parents? I'd like to do as much as I can for them while they're still healthy. I was surprised by my husband's suggestion of moving in. I hadn't thought that far, but I was also a bit apprehensive. Living together is different from just getting along. Are you sure? Absolutely. I owe your dad a lot from my time at work. But more than that, I genuinely love your parents and want to be of help. I realized then how much my husband thought of my father as his own parent. I was truly glad I married him. When we told my parents about it, they were as delighted as I was. It was decided that we would start living together after Dad retired. Mom and I shared household chores, and I took over preparing breakfast and dinner. Mom wasn't really into cooking, and since middle school, we had taken turns preparing dinner. Right after Dad retired, the four of us went on a trip to celebrate his retirement and our moving in together. Dad was so lively, it was hard to believe he was sick. I wished those days could last longer. But 6 months in, Dad's health declined, and he started spending more time in bed. Camila, do you think you could quit your job? Taking care of Dad is harder on the back than I thought. I'd prefer if you could handle his care. I understand. I've already discussed this possibility with my boss. It was sad to leave a job I loved, but spending time with my dad was more important now. I quit my job the following month. Mom handled most of the housework except cooking, and I took over Dad's care. Once I started caring for Dad, I noticed a change in Mom's behavior. I'm stepping out for a bit. I'll be back by evening. Mom started leaving the house frequently once she finished her morning chores. Hey, what do you need to go out for so often? Aren't you worried about Dad? I'm doing all the housework, aren't I? Besides, taking care of Dad is your job now. There's no point in me staying home. Was that really the issue? Mom knew, just like I did, that Dad didn't have much time left. Since I started staying home, Mom seemed more lively. Sorry, Camila. Making you quit your job and all. You just became a preschool teacher, your dream job. Maybe relying on your mom for care was too much to ask. It's okay. I'm doing this because I want to be with Dad. And Mom's always been a bit self-centered. We shared a knowing smile. For Dad, Mom, 9 years his junior and beautiful, had always been his princess since he first met her at 19. Maybe Mom stayed beautiful because Dad loved her and let her have her freedom. But there was something else that bothered me. Bob and Mom seemed to be getting uncomfortably close. Bob, welcome home. Let's have a toast to unwind. In the evenings, Mom, who loved a drink, started inviting Bob for a drink when he got home. I joined them for a bit, but I couldn't stay long because of Dad's care. Even when I was helping Dad in the bathroom, I could hear Mom laughing and having a great time. Having you guys here really seems to make your mom happy. Dad smiled, but he looked a bit sad. I was glad Bob was getting along with my mom, but watching them grow closer day by day left me feeling conflicted. Today, I'm going shopping with Bob from lunchtime. Yesterday, I mentioned how difficult it was to carry all the groceries back, and Bob offered to drive us. I'm gonna do a bit of filial piety for Anna, who takes care of the house every day. I'll pick up some drinks for our evening drinks too. They both left looking happy, and I felt somewhat left behind. Isn't taking care of Dad harder than doing housework? I grumbled to myself. Though I knew it was mean-spirited to think that way. But starting that day, my mom and husband began going out together more frequently. I'm sure Dad wasn't feeling great about it either. They started having their evening drinks outside, and I was completely excluded. Are they out together again? Looks like it. They probably won't be back until the wee hours of the morning. I never suspected anything between them, but I was getting increasingly frustrated with my mom's selfishness and my husband's willingness to indulge her. It's good they get along, but their lack of consideration for me and Dad was upsetting. Even if taking care of Dad is my responsibility, it doesn't give them the right to do whatever they please. As I waited for them to return, filled with frustration, my husband called. Sorry. got carried away drinking and missed the last train. Your mom is completely drunk, so we're gonna stay at a nearby business hotel tonight." I was stunned. "Why can't you just take a taxi home?" "Well, actually, we're already at the hotel. Your mom's already asleep. I'll make sure to come home in the morning. Sorry." With that, he hung up. Staying overnight together was just unbelievable. My frustration turned into outright anger. I went to my room, grabbed a pillow, and slammed it onto the bed. Then, making sure Dad couldn't hear, I buried my face in the pillow and yelled, "Idiots." The next day, they hadn't returned by lunchtime. No response to my texts. "Good morning. What time did Mom and the others get back?" They didn't. Mom got so drunk last night they decided to stay over. I couldn't look at my dad as I said this. "Are you okay with all this?" "Yeah. I'm pretty disappointed in Mom this time. And Bob too." I couldn't forgive them for gallivanting around while Dad, who was battling illness, was at home. I was determined to unleash all my pent-up anger on them when they returned. But then, in the afternoon, an unbelievable call came in. "Hello, Camila? You got a minute?" "Emily? You're back." "Sure, what's up?" It was Emily, my childhood friend and best friend who lived nearby. She moved out of state for a job after college, but we're still very close. "Hey. I saw your aunt at the station last night." Emily hesitated after blurting that out. "What happened?" "Well, I came back to town yesterday and was drinking at a bar near the station. I saw your aunt entering a hotel with a man. I felt so sorry for your dad." I knew what Emily was implying. The hotel near the station here is known for being a love hotel. "No way!" I almost blurted out that it was my husband, but I stopped myself. I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. Surely it couldn't be true. A mother wouldn't do something so cruel to her daughter. "I took a photo just in case. Check it out later." After hanging up, I looked at the photo Emily sent. In it was. There they were in the photo, my mother and husband, clinging tightly to each other and looking into each other's eyes as they entered the hotel. Emily might have realized that the man was my husband. My world seemed to shake, and I felt like I was about to collapse. This is a joke, right? What do they think of me and my father? This is too much for a joke. I immediately went to my father. In the end, the two of them didn't return until that evening. "We're home. Sorry we're late." Despite my father battling illness, they nonchalantly left the house to have fun. There was no sign of remorse in their attitude. I stood imposingly at the entrance, preventing them from entering the house as if it was natural. "This isn't a we're home moment. Explain this to me." I thrust the photo my friend had sent me in front of my husband. He looked surprised for a moment, but then burst out laughing and exchanged glances with my mother. "Oh, we've been caught. That was quicker than expected. Guess staying overnight was a bad idea. I thought Camila would be more oblivious." As they chuckled together, I was dumbfounded. Isn't this the time to panic and make excuses? Since we started living with my parents, I had noticed my husband and mother growing closer, but who could have imagined it would come to this? "So you're admitting to the affair?" "I can't believe it." "It's not an affair. It's serious. I did truly fall for you at first sight and propose, but when I saw Anna, I realized she was my destiny. You just resembled her. Anna is perfect." My husband blatantly put his arm around my mother's shoulder, smirking at me. I felt nauseated by his repulsive behavior. "I'm more attractive than you, huh? He used to be sweet to me, but once he started clinging to me, he became nothing but a burden." My mother referred to my father as he, and I was shocked. Was my father just a thing of the past to her now? Just like my husband, I felt sick seeing her as a woman. And Bob suits me better. I'm closer to his age, after all. My mother laughed triumphantly, no longer the mother I knew. Betrayed by the two people I trusted the most, I couldn't stand to breathe the same air as them for another second. "Get out. Huh? I don't want to see your face anymore. We're getting a divorce. Take that woman and leave now. Okay. Divorce. Totally fine. That was the plan if you found out. My hatred was far greater than my sadness. Next time, let's have a divorce discussion with Dad involved. Until then, don't come back. Grinding my teeth, I glared at them as my mother, unfazed, said something absurd. I don't mind separating, but I have no intention of divorcing your father. You and Bob can discuss the divorce. What? You can't just decide that. You and Dad are obviously getting divorced too. What are you talking about? The Reaper will be here soon anyway, and after spending so much time together, I'm not about to give up on the inheritance. Right. There should be a hefty pension too. Anna has a right to claim it. We'd lose out on the inheritance if we divorced. I could only sigh at their selfish reasoning. Had they always been like this? It was as if their masks had fallen off, revealing their ugly sides. I wanted them to leave as soon as possible. Then, I heard my father's loud voice from behind. Get out of here right now. Anna, it's fine if we're separated. I loved you, but I can't forgive someone who hurts my daughter. Bob, be prepared. Fine. Then, let's meet again at the funeral. Until then, I won't show my face, so there's nothing you can do. Enjoy your short remaining time with your precious daughter. They left, leaving only those vile words behind. Tears of frustration overflowed as I stood motionless, and my father gently patted my back. It's okay. I won't let them get away with this. Leave it to me. There was an unexpected strength in him, not what you would expect from someone who needed care. It was the reliable father I knew from my childhood. Once again, the three of us, excluding my father, had a discussion, and I got a divorce from my husband. We decided to hire movers for their belongings. My husband immediately transferred a lump sum for the alimony. The life that started with just me and my father was peaceful and calm. Originally, neither my mother nor my husband did much, so there wasn't much trouble. We settled into a rhythm of life together, and just when I was beginning to forget about my husband and mother, my father's condition suddenly worsened. It was a weekend, and I couldn't reach his primary doctor, so I had to take him to the hospital in an ambulance. He never regained consciousness and passed away a week later. I was left alone, drowning in grief, having lost my only family member. On the evening of the wake, my ex-husband and mother, as if it was the most natural thing, came. They nonchalantly sat in the family section and put on a show of tears in front of my father's colleagues. I was utterly astounded. What are you doing here? You weren't invited. My husband passed away. It's only natural for a wife to be here. Besides, we have to discuss the inheritance after the funeral. Their smirks were as irritating as ever, but they seemed cautious about revealing too much in front of my father's colleagues. Once the wake was over and all the colleagues had left, they left too. They probably couldn't admit to living with my mother as a divorced couple at the company. After ensuring they had left, I stayed behind to discuss the next day's arrangements with the funeral staff. They can smirk all they want for now. Because the revenge of my father and me was about to begin. At the funeral, many people came to say their final goodbyes to my father. Their kind words to me made it clear how beloved my father was. Just like the day before, my mother and ex-husband, acting like family, received condolences from my father's colleagues, making me want to throw salt over my shoulder. But I had to be patient for now. As everyone took their seats, the staff in charge of the proceedings took the microphone. We are ready to begin the funeral, but before we start, the deceased has left a message for his wife. Let's listen to that first. The quiet hall was filled with my father's voice. Anna, thank you for being by my side for 27 years since our marriage. My mother's eyes widened as she stared at my father's portrait. There were sobs from the attendees. I always thought you were cute, like a princess. Every time we fought, you presented me with a divorce paper. I would tear it up in exchange for the gifts you wanted, hoping for your forgiveness. Laughter leaked out from the attendees. Even my mother nodded, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. But I started finding it amusing, wondering how many divorce papers you would present me with until I died. So, I decided to keep them as precious mementos of our life together. Huh? My mother let out a small gasp. I always wanted to grant your wishes, my dear. So, as my final gift to you, I've filed those divorce papers at the office. This is my last present to you. My mother turned pale. My father's voice continued. You're free now. Live a long and happy life with Bob, whom you stole from her daughter after an affair. I won't choose you in the next life. Goodbye. The hall erupted in murmurs. Bob and my mother, pale and still not fully comprehending the situation, didn't move an inch. What does this mean? My mother muttered in a trembling voice. Speaking for my father, I answered her. It means that Mom and Dad are officially divorced now. You're free but have no right to the inheritance. As soon as I finished speaking, my mother began to lose her composure. What? I have no rights to the inheritance? I never agreed to that. My ex-husband also started to raise his voice in panic, seemingly unaware of his surroundings. Hey! What's this about? Not giving anything to a wife after 27 years of marriage is unheard of. Since you both left the house for an affair, the divorce has already been finalized. The divorce papers were signed by Mother herself, no forgery involved. My mother's face turned pale, and her trembling hands clenched on her lap. You used to threaten Dad with divorce twice a year to get high-brand bags and jewelry. You may not get the inheritance, but you've already received plenty from Dad. Bob looked at my mother in shock. Now you'll have to replace Dad, right? Mother is a selfish money pit. Good luck with that. Are you saying Anna won't get a single cent? Think about it. Why would a divorced stranger have any rights to an inheritance? My mother, trembling with anger, glared at me and screamed. Shut up! Give me the inheritance you're going to receive. Repay me for raising you. Give it all to me. My anger intensified at her audacity. What? Haven't I already repaid my debt? I gave up the love of my life to you, and didn't even ask for alimony. How much more greedy can you be? My mother's face turned red with anger, like fury. No, more like a gold digger. I took a deep breath and said slowly. Since the day you abandoned our family, I've had no mother. I have no intention of taking care of you in your old age. Leave it to Bob. As if I need to be told. I'll marry Bob as soon as possible. At her words, I couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Such a foolish woman. What? Let me tell you something funny. You two can't get married. What? The two of them looked incredulous. You might want to consider adopting Bob soon. If you stay strangers, he might run away from a 60-year-old gold digger. I laughed heartily, while the two of them stood there, dumbfounded. Time for you to leave. I don't want people who betrayed our family at Dad's funeral. Go, now. I stood up, looking down at them, and spoke loudly. Do you realize your situation? Everyone here cares for my father. My mother and ex-husband glanced around in shock. Most of the attendees were from Bob's company. Bob, I think more than half of these people are from your company, aren't they? No, it's not like that. As Bob shouted, they both stood up and ran out of the funeral home. Running away with their tails between their legs might just look something like this. The moment they were out of sight, applause and words of encouragement came from the attendees. Looking at the altar, my father's portrait seemed to be smiling. The finale of mine and my father's revenge. Let's begin the funeral now. Finally, surrounded by people who truly mourned my father, I was able to say my last goodbye in peace. Afterward, I sold the family home and moved to the town where Emily lives. It wasn't easy to let go of the house where I grew up, but staying there felt like my mother might return. I wanted to cut ties completely. My ex-husband, after the fiasco at the funeral, was too scared to go back to work and ended up resigning. It's a shame for someone who was once considered the rising star by my father. But he found his perfect destiny, so that shouldn't matter much. My ex-husband and mother are still living together. I don't know if they've adopted each other, but it's unlikely that my mother would let him go unless a better man comes along. For my ex, the real hell is probably just beginning. I think my father was the only one who could control my mother, the selfish princess he created. I can imagine how my mother will manipulate Bob, but whatever happens to them is no longer my concern. I've returned to the job I love as a preschool teacher. Living near Emily, my best friend and still single, is reassuring. We visit each other's homes, go out, and drink like in our younger days. It feels like I've regained my youth. I occasionally join mixers for fun, but I'll never fall for the line love at first sight again. From now on, I'm determined to live a happy life, cherishing the people around me, so as not to worry my Father in heaven.